Hey guys, it's Sam and this is my February wrap-up. The first book I picked up this month was Winter Song by S.J. Jones. I've already done a full review on this, so I will link that on the screen, but this is a Labyrinth, like the movie Labyrinth, retelling. Like I said in my review, I was a little bit disappointed by this one. It just didn't quite hit the mark for me. I wanted a little bit more out of it. I felt like it just was trying to be something that it kind of wasn't. I think this would have been really good as an adult book, and it was originally written to be an adult book, and then it had to be pushed back into the YA category, and I feel like it just didn't quite work as a YA book. There was just more things I would have liked, and more things from the characters I would have liked. I feel like I wasn't quite as close to them as I would have liked to have been, and there were certain things I was expecting just pacing-wise and storyline-wise I didn't quite get. I still liked this. It still had kind of Hades Persephone vibes for me a little bit, but it didn't just quite hit the mark for me. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. I then listened to Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys on audiobook, actually. This is a book I've had on my shelf for a very long time, but I've decided to start listening to a lot more audiobooks because I have a longer commute now with my internship and work. So I've been listening to audiobooks and I decided to pick this one up. This story starts in 1941 in Lithuania, and it follows our character of Lena and her family as they are being rounded up by the Soviet Union and put into basically concentration camps. They're more like work camps, but their whole journey and what was going on during that time that a lot of people don't really know about. It's kind of like the untold story. It's something that people in Lithuania still aren't really willing to talk about, and they're always like, for fear of being punished, it's like a huge thing. Everyone knows about like the Holocaust and the Jews and Hitler, but not a lot of people know about like Stalin and Lithuania and other countries and what was happening there. So this was really interesting. As I said, it is historical fiction, so it is based a little bit in reality, but I don't think the audiobook really did it justice, honestly. I ended up really not enjoying the audiobook. It's a pretty quick read, but the narrator for the audiobook had a tone of voice where you always felt like she was smiling, because you can always kind of tell when someone's smiling when they're reading something. And smiling doesn't work for this story. Like, it is very brutal, and I just didn't get a sense of that. Like, I just feel like the themes didn't align with how the narrator narrated it. So I was left really kind of separated from the story. It was horrific, a lot of things that were happening, but I just didn't feel like the characters were responding, not appropriately, but just the way that the voices sounded was just like, this isn't how they sound. So it was really jarring as far as listening to it. So I ended up giving this one 2.5 out of 5 stars. I do think this is probably one that's better just read in text version because the narrator wasn't really good, and I think I would have liked it a lot more if I would have just read it myself. But who knows. I then listened to another audiobook, and that was Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. This is a YA contemporary that follows Simon, and Simon has been talking to a boy named Blue, which is a code name, via email in his school. He found out that Blue is gay, but Blue is not out, and Simon is not out either. And so his emails get discovered by another boy, and he kind of gets blackmailed, and everything kind of goes from there. So I wasn't sure how to feel going into the story. It was one that I'd heard a lot of really great things about, but it just kind of felt okay to me. It is a really cute story. It is a really happy story. There are things that happen in it that are like tumultuous, but ultimately it ends up being just a very cute story. But I did feel like I just didn't quite connect as much as I would have liked to. It was cute, but like, it was just kind of cute. And that's generally how I feel about YA contemporary anyway. Like, YA contemporary across the board for me tends to be 3 stars-ish because it's just kind of cute and fluffy and fairly predictable. There's a lot of things about this that are very just high school kind of rom-com story elements that I feel like are very similar and very cliched, but they were cute. But they're just things that I've seen before. So I gave this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. I then picked up Temeraire by Naomi Novik. I have already done a full review on this one as well. This is one of my favorite books that I've read so far this year. It is an adult fantasy story, the first one in a series, that follows Lawrence, who is a naval officer in the British Empire, because this takes place during the Napoleonic Wars, and he gets bonded to a dragon hatchling and has to join the Aerial Corps, which is a separate part of the military, and everything kind of takes off from there because this is the Napoleonic Wars with dragons. And it's amazing. Like I said, I've already done a full review on this, but I loved the setting and how dragons were woven into this like historical setting extremely well. I really enjoyed the characters, all of them. The dragons can talk, so if you are an all-animal person, you will like this because it's like if you could talk to your pets. The dragons act like giant cat dogs, It's amazing, and the bonds between trainers and dragons are just adorable, and I'm just very excited for the rest of the series. I think it's like a 9-book series, somebody told me. I thought it was like only 4 or 5, and then someone in the comments told me it was a 9-book series, and I'm ready. Because this is just so cute, and just makes me so happy, and it's just adorable. I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I picked up, we go from a high to a low, and that was Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I have a review coming up for this book on Monday, so my full thoughts and a great video will be coming up for this, but this is a YA fantasy story about a magical circus, supposedly, and it left me so disappointed. I rated it 1 star not because I necessarily hated it, like I rate a lot of my other 1 stars are usually books that I like really poisonously hate. But this book just left me disappointed in every single way. Like, I can't really say anything positive about it, but it just missed the mark on so many things. I felt like the world building was lackluster because it wasn't really a magical circus at all. It's more a magical town. There's magical, you know, freestanding shops, and there's a magical inn that it kind of takes place in. Not even magical, it's just an inn. And it just is taking place on this island. It's not a circus, you know? It's not like a traveling circus. And as I said in my review, I did not compare this to the Night Circus. I didn't go in expecting the Night Circus because I know that nothing can compare to the Night Circus for me. It's like comparing things to Harry Potter. You just don't do that. It's just setting yourself up for failure. But between the just world-building elements and then the characters were all one-dimensional. The protagonists, the love interests, the villains, all one-dimensional characters, all incredibly cliche, all didn't have any character development whatsoever in the story, and there's like an insta-love thing going on. So many elements of things that I just hated, and then I found a lot of things about the plot, just again, cliche, predictable. The writing wasn't extremely good, really. I felt like it was pretty poor, and that it was trying to be something that it wasn't. It was trying to be flowery and over the top, and it didn't need to be. And yeah, I also felt like this could have been a middle grade story and would have worked magnificently because it has a writing that would have worked better for middle grade in my opinion, and we wouldn't have had the romance, which would have helped a ton. So, sadly, because I really wanted to like this book, it's one of my most highly anticipated books, I picked this arc up at BEA last year because I was so excited for it, but sadly I gave this one 1 out of 5 stars. Like I said, my review for that is coming up on Monday if you want to know all of my in-depth thoughts. I know it's been a very popular, well-received book for the most part. I was just not into it. And the last book that I read this month was The Collapsing Empire by John Scalzi. This is the first book in a new adult space opera by John Scalzi. It's going to be a series. I'm not sure if it's going to be a trilogy or more than 3 books, but I loved everything about the premise for this. This is about a future galaxy where humans have discovered how to travel through space, but it's not through normal travel means, it's through something called the flow, which is a kind of hard to understand space thing because it's not really quite explained, but it allows people to travel quickly to different various far-flung locations. Well, when the story starts is when the flow actually starts collapsing, so all of these different parts of the galaxy are going to get cut off from one another, and that's super bad. So we're following a bunch of different characters that are encountering this and having to deal with this. We follow a woman who's about to become empress of the entire galaxy. We follow some starship captains. We follow some more... They're sort of like merchant guild people, but they're not quite. They're sort of politicians, merchants, something kind of. It's kind of hard to explain. They kind of fall in multiple categories as like government officials, but also salespeople. And yeah, it's a fun mix of things. I will say that I had trouble kind of connecting to the characters in here because the characters are pretty much all assholes for the most part. They have a different way of communicating in this future world where they're all just really blunt. They curse a lot, which is fine with me, but they curse a lot and they're very blunt and just straightforward, and there's a lot of like political machinations things happening, especially with the like merchant government people, and they're all jerks, and it's like kind of fun because towards the end you start kind of pulling for some of these jerks, and you have people that you start to kind of attach to towards the end, but it did take me most of the book to start attaching to characters. Not that I necessarily needed to, but I feel like this is a fairly character-driven story because you are following how people are reacting to the flow collapsing and the political machinations, things that are happening as a result of the flow collapsing. So I thought that was really fun. John Scalzi has a way with wit and writing and how funny a lot of his stuff is, so this was very funny and still very much that, but I have heard from a lot of Scalzi fans this is their least favorite of his so far. I've only read the first book in Old Man's War, which I liked more than this, I will say, but I still liked this, and I'm interested to see where it goes. I think it does have a lot of potential, and it's a space opera, man. Like, it's a lot of fun, but if you don't like blunt, a lot of cursing with your characters, you're probably not going to like this that much, but it is a fun ride if you're willing to give it a chance and to take a little while to get into it character-wise. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. I will also have a full review coming up for that one later on this month. So that is it for everything I read in February. Comment down below and let me know what you got read in this short month. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye!